One. What's up, beautiful people? It's your girl, Leanne. It's the way I start the show always, as I grow and I flow with amazing friends. This series is going to be music friends, but we're going to go a little bit deeper. Now that I've exposed musicians, we're going to go deeper with learning with musicians. And on the other side of the camera, we have my beautiful friend, Troy Toma.
Hello.
And he
Thank
owns...
you for having me.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. Welcome. And he has an amazing school in Langley called Cadence. And we talked about that in the interview. So make sure you check out that interview. It's all on YouTube. I'll be reposting these through the holiday season, making sure more people get access to see them. But, you know, one of the things that I need to work on myself and why I associate myself and my time around amazing, talented people is what do we have to offer, not only the community, but ourselves and our growth and our skills. And Troy Toma has a ton of skills. So being a music teacher, he has his own little school there. And we'll talk a little bit about that while we learn a little bit more. Today, we'll be doing a little bit more about the intro and breaking a song down. But Troy, why don't you tell us a little bit about Cadence? We did talk about how it started, but just tell us about your location and then kind of how your week is and what kind of students you're dealing with and what you're teaching.
Well, location is in Langley, BC. And it's basically right across the street from Willowbrook Mall. And yeah, we have about close to 35 students at the moment. So it's a pretty steady week. And I was teaching at the Southern Music School for about 15 years before I opened my own. And then, but while I was doing that, I always had students, you know, through the house, a few students of my own. And in the back of my mind, when we were doing these recitals at the other music school, I was always like, oh, I'd like to do my own recital, you know, for my own students sometime, right? So that kind of planted the seed to think about maybe opening up my own music school. So, and then, yeah, one day I just decided to do it. And I started looking on the internet and I found this space here. And then we moved in here on April of 2013, I believe. No, yeah, 2013, April 2013. And then, so June was approaching very fast in April there. So I wanted to do a little barbecue just to show my appreciation for all my students. And then I just decided, I said, okay, I'm just gonna actually do a full-on recital because kind of that was what I've always wanted to do. So I decided to do a full-on recital and a barbecue and for all the students, you know, so we had a barbecue from like 1 to 2 in the afternoon in that following June, and then from about 2 to 3:30 we had a recital. So I set up a big stage, and there's actually a contained lot in the back of the warehouse here, so we were able to set up a stage. And then one of my students, his grandfather had a wedding tent, and we set up the barbecue, and it went off really, really good. So we've done about 6 of them here. And so, yeah, we've been doing them, you know, quite a bit here. So the students really enjoy it. So, yeah,
so good.
I'm started to do some Christmas ones now. So we're actually going to do a Christmas one. And since it's wet outside, obviously we're going to do it inside. So we've partnered up with Tom Lee Music in Langley now. And they're allowing us to do, we've done one there, not last Christmas, but the Christmas before. We've done one there at Tom Lee. In Langley, and they're allowing us to do another one here in it's going to be December 11th at 1 p.m. So it's a Saturday. So yeah, we're going to do another one, and the students are super excited. We're working hard on all their songs and pieces, and yeah, we're going to have kind of a few little Christmas treats going on, and yeah, it'll be good.
So good. So viewers, so that's a little bit about his location and his students. Now I'm going to get myself very, very vulnerable and get into reminding myself a little bit about being a student and reflecting composition, because I really feel since I left school, I feel that, you know, what can I remind people and how can we uplift when we don't always have time like we did when we were in school, if we're working full time, but that we know that arts are really important, you know, to stimulate. And just like exercise, it's like we got to exercise that muscle. So we want to talk a little bit about basic composition, but, you know, maybe you can guide me here, Troy, what you feel you want to start with talking about harmonies or melodies or anything like that, or where would you start?
Well, to me, I think to be good at songwriting or composition, you really have to definitely understand some theory. So some basic music theory is we use what's called a diatonic scale, and the diatonic scale has 7 notes to it. And off of each of those notes, you can build what's called a triad. So in each scale, we have 7 notes. So therefore, we have 7 triads. So therefore, there's 7 chords. So if you have 7 chords, each chord in out of those 7 actually play a role, and they actually have a function to them in composition. And so really 99% of any song that you've ever heard on the radio or whatever it is, it doesn't matter if it's Taylor Swift or Beethoven, it all revolves around the 1-4-5 chord. So if you're in C major, your 1 chord is going to be C, and your 4 chord is going to be F, and then your 5 chord is going to be G. So again, the 1-4-5 is like everything revolves around, every single blues song that you've ever heard is based around a 1-4-5 progression. So that's the basis really of, songwriting, and then of course the harmonies are built off the chords, and you can add a few other chords to that and stuff. So the 1-4-5 is probably the most common progression known to man, and the second most common is the 1-4-6-5, and you can really kind of mix these up in any way. So again, if we're in C major, the 1 chord is C, the 4 chord is F, the 6 is A minor, and then the 5 is G. So to me, that's, to kind of be a proficient songwriter. I mean, you can go about it and sort of just kind of search for chords and see what will work and what not. But all the greats, like I said, from Taylor Swift to Beethoven to Elvis Presley, I mean, all these people have that basic knowledge that, every key revolves around the 1-4-5 progression if you're writing songs.
Okay, so viewers, because that sounds above and beyond a basic understanding for you guys, but it's a very important reflection from somebody who's mature. So basically, people would have to start with getting their hands on an instrument and just learning their basic chords, and whether that is, let's talk about major, minor, diminished, augmented, all those different things. Let's talk a little bit of the basic awareness of how this plays a role, because you just talked about an A minor, or the implementations. Let's go basic with like a basic major scale.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, the major and the minor chords. So there's a formula to every key. So I just kind of explained that there's 7 chords in each key. So the formula for the chords is the 1 chord is always major, the 2 chord is always minor, the 3 chord is always minor, the 4 chord is major, the 5 chord is major, and the 6 is minor, and then the 7 is diminished. So and that's for every single key. So the 1 chord, or the major chord, is like a major triad and then a perfect fifth. So that's kind of what contains a major chord. And then of course the minor chord is a minor third. So it's a major third or a minor third, which dictates the major chord. And then of course the diminished chord is a minor third and a diminished fifth. And then the augmented is a minor third and an augmented fifth. So yeah, so that's
so the sounds. Let's talk more general now, because this is a lot of words for people that are not musicians or who are musicians. So generally, we can talk about sound and how sound hears, because we'll go from where the C is into B's and F's, whatever it is in the scales. But sound from a major chord will be more uplifting, or
yes, exactly.
And how would you train your ear to hear a major chord? Like, it'd be more clear to hear that sound, and we're all aware of a major sound.
Major is definitely happy, uplifting, and then the minor is sad. Yeah, for sure.
And then how about diminished? It's just even more sad.
Diminished kind of plays it's kind of has a dissonant role. It creates tension in music, and it must be resolved, somewhere. A lot of times the 4 chord out of a key will be from a 4 chord, which is again like C major, it's an F chord, and a lot of times they'll do it in F sharp diminished, and then that will resolve back to the one chord, which is C. So that kind of, yeah, the diminished sort of is a chord that really kind of creates tension and wants to be resolved.
Okay, and so viewers, reflecting what he's saying, because I did go to school for 1 year, that I can understand what he's saying and to elaborate a little bit so that I'm also remembering what I learned is now he's talking about feeling and how chords take us home, just like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. The ti, do is more diminished, or is it augmented, or what is it?
The ti,
Sound.
do, yeah, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Yeah, the T is the seventh, right? So that's the seventh scale degree. So again, you know, each chord has its, like I was saying, how it has its own function, right? And that's the principle behind chords. Like the 5 always wants to go back to the 1. And the thing is, why the 5 goes back to the 1, because it has what's called the leading tone, and the leading tone is the T. You know, that's the 7th scale degree, and that's what's in the 5 chord, and then that always wants to go back to the 1 chord. So that's that 5-1. That's that resolution type thing.
So that's wonderful too. So within one scale, we have do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, or C, D, E, F, G, and then what's after G?
A.
A.
A, B. Yeah. A, B.
A, B.
Yeah.
So B's the last. So you guys, so you know where it starts at C to A. All right.
Yeah.
And then within one chord, you have all of that to work with that has an ability to move back and forth to create feeling.
Yeah.
So everything that Troy's saying, I learned that in my theory class with Doug Smith, which the podcast series are in there too. Amazing teacher, another person at Douglas College. But I wanted to be able just to be open and vulnerable of rekindling these thoughts, because I want to write again. And I want to be inspired by my friends. And this is what this series is all about. It's music friends, you know, having an opportunity just to share what they do. And this is what Troy does every day. He's out there in the community teaching kids chords. And you're majoring in your guitar?
Yeah. I majored in guitar in university. Yeah.
Okay, so are you just teaching guitar? Are you teaching any piano or?
No, I teach guitar mainly. You know, obviously I do a lot of vocals myself. So if someone wants to come in and start singing some songs, I'll definitely help them out, put the two together.
Yeah.
But it's mainly guitar and the bass. I do bass a little bit as well.
Okay, wonderful. So this is a really great reminder about music, and maybe what we can do from here, now that we know we have our major scales, minor scales, augmented and diminished. These are different scales that create sound. Within each chord, we also have ways that it moves back and forth to create emotions and how it leads you home with do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And I think that's enough to wrap up in people's minds about chords, because an intro to that in one series, you know, where we can always expand more in that. But yeah, so some things about writing a song and being aware that, you know, I write a lot of music through feeling, and because I'm huge into love, and then I feel there's so many people I meet that also will, you know, reminisce with a feeling about life, and they'll start expressing it, and then they'll get into this flow with it, which we call melody, right?
Yeah.
So I was just writing a song yesterday about golden love, and I was like, golden love, ooh, and I was getting this melody. So for people that are getting these melodies within them naturally, I want to encourage that, but let's bring out the beautiful teachers that can get us back into theory, get us into some composition, or get us into a guitar. And so let's just break down a song. And I sent you a little document about this. I think it's a good idea where we can talk a little bit about a song breakdown. So in this basic song breakdown, we have basic 6 things, which can be utilized differently, just like a chord, because you can move it and then move it within the melody. And then in the ending, you can resolve back at do, or resolve where you can at T, or whatever it is. So we can talk a little bit about that. So let's talk about, like, what is an intro to you, in your opinion, like the intro to a song?
Oh, well, yeah, it could be many, many, many different things. Sometimes people intro their songs with the chorus, like the chorus riff, or else they just start coming in with the same chord progression that's part of the verse, which is very common. or it can be just something completely different from the rest of the song that just kind of introduces the song, right? So yeah, I think basically like when you're kind of writing a song and you kind of come up with the basic structure of the song, I think a lot of times you'd go back and kind of work out the intro and say, okay, where do we want this to kind of start to kind of grab the listener, their attention, and introduce, what the song's going to feel like.
So setting the stage for the
Yeah.
song.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you talked about chords. So that's going to be your main chord progression in the beginning, in the intro?
Well, it can be, like I said, it can, there's a few different ways you can go about it. For instance, a student brought this song in today, and he wanted to, I've never heard the song before, but it's called Drinking Problem, and it's by the band Midland. And like I said, I've never heard it, right? So I had to work out the intro, and the intro is sets up the song, but it's just this little snippet piece of music, and it's not brought in any other parts of the song. It's just this little intro thing. So yeah, and then of course you got Aerosmith and stuff like that, bands like that, a lot of times they would actually intro the song with a chorus riff, and then they would come into the verse. So then when they do come back to the actual chorus, it's you recognize it, right? So
so their intro would be an intro to the chorus.
It would be the chorus riff. Yeah. A lot of
Okay.
times for the song, it would be the chorus riff. Like
Okay,
Sweet Emotion.
so that's another word. You
Sweet
just said
Emotion is
riff,
a
so we'll get to riff. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Let me just see, out of all these 6 here that I've got, let's talk about riffs then. What's a riff?
What's a riff?
Yeah.
A riff? It could be kind of a lot of things. I mean, a riff, I think, in different genres of music, it applies different, ways. Like a riff is kind of like if you're listening to the band Green Day, or, you listen to Metallica or something like that. Not a lot of their songs are really based around, like a certain chord progression, right? It's a little bit more riff based, so to speak. But when you get into like pop songs, country songs, that type of genre of stuff, it's very chord oriented, right? It's very structured, like I was saying before, around a 1-4-5. But yeah, like pop sort of rock bands and stuff like that, they base their songs around riffs. And
So
like
is riff like more electronical?
Well, Enter Sandman, for instance, is that dun 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 dun. That's kind of a riff. It's not really based around chords or anything. It's just a little riff kind of thing,
Okay.
Or American Idiot by Green Day, dun 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 dun. That type of thing is, it's like a riff.
Okay, so it's kind of like getting you, kind of like in singing, kind of like the breath before you sing. Would it be like that? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's kind of that. It's just it's a musical little idea, that reoccurs in parts of songs, and it can be anything, a riff.
And the riffs is usually what makes it a little bit catchy too. So I guess that's
exactly.
more used in like pop music, you find?
Yeah, pop and like I said, rock and Green Day, and AC/DC bands like that, or Aerosmith and whatnot.
Okay, so now we're going into the verse, and that is where the journey begins. So talk about a little bit about what it means to you.
The verse is where the story begins. Definitely where people sort of say what's kind of the song is kind of I think each verse has to kind of have like almost a story in itself. So again, like each genre, you know what I mean? Like each genre is so different, I've written a lot in rock, but in country, it really has to come from a perspective. It has to be a story, something that people can kind of latch onto. They have to vividly see the picture in their mind when it comes to country music, right? Like a farm or a tractor, or a rain coming down on a tin roof or something like that. It really has to be that vivid picture, but there has to be like an angle to it, like someone's telling a story. and that people can really latch onto. So that's kind of what the verse does. It sets up the song to bring in the story.
So it's preparing us for, which comes next is, okay, but it prepares us for the chorus, but then there's a pre-chorus. So let's talk about the pre-chorus.
Yeah, the pre-chorus is kind of, it's a little bit of a tension builder towards the chorus. It sets it up, so to speak.
So that's kind of like the riff, you think?
Hit a home run when you get to the chorus.
Is that kind of like what a riff is then, a pre-chorus, you think?
Well, yeah, it can be. It can
kind of
be.
like, yeah. Well, I just want to make, because I think we got to make sense of this riff thing, because it says here about, it's called the lift. So if people are
Yes.
using riffs,
Yeah.
so it's how
is
they're
a
just
bit of a
taking these
lift.
ideas. So it's kind of like a pre-chorus, what a riff would be, I guess, then.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a little musical interlude that's right before the chorus to give it, and sometimes there'll be like a big stop, and then the chorus will sort of come right in, right, with a big explosion type thing. And it's just gives you that.
Anticipation. It's like setting up the stage for the chorus.
Yeah.
Getting you on your toes. And then the chorus.
And
You
then
talk a
the
little bit about the chorus.
chorus is the title of the song. That's the one where they call it the hook. So
Okay.
that's the one that grabs your attention when you finish listening to a song. I mean, that's the part that's going in your mind all the time. That's the riff that's going kind of in your mind, singing the chorus riff. Jingle
Awesome.
bells, jingle bell rock. That's the chorus of the song, right? So people don't usually remember the other parts of the song. What I mean? It's like they remember the chorus, right?
Interesting. So
Yeah.
we all have this subliminal messaging all happening through chorus, not through
Yeah.
the whole story. People don't want the emotional factor. They're like, just get me home to the
Yeah.
chorus.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, man, this life is so emotional. Come on. Let's just have some fun in the chorus.
Yeah, everything kind of revolves around it. Yeah.
All right, now our next part of a song, and like we're just breaking this down because this is fun. I need to learn and I want to see what your feelings are. The bridge. So the bridge is more or less getting you from one section to another section of the song.
No, the bridge is a completely different section of the song. A good example is a good bridge is if you listen to Summer '69 by Bryan Adams. There's a really good bridge part in there, and it just kind of takes you away from the verse and the chorus section of the song, and it's just a little snippet part that's like completely different, and it just takes you away from that for a brief second, and then when you bring it back to either the chorus or the verse, it's refreshing.
So
So
like you think a bridge is kind of bringing you back, even though it's pulling you forward?
yeah, it's just like I said, it's just a little snippet of a little musical interlude with some lyrics in it. That's just a departure from the rest of the song. So that, like I said, so then when it brings it back to the rest of the song, it's refreshing because there is songs out there, and there's great songs out there which just goes, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, 3 times each basically. And then that's your song, which again, there's tons that are out there that are really good. But the majority of songs, if you keep just doing that verse, chorus, it just sounds really redundant, right? So if you could throw in a little bridge in there, there's just a little musical kind of section that's just a departure from that part of the song, and then when you bring it back to the song, then it's refreshing and it doesn't sound super redundant. So then when people are going to listen to a song over and over and over again, then they on Spotify or Apple or whatever, and they listen to a song and they're and they have that bridge part in there and it brings it back, it's refreshing again, right? So it's just a little tiny, and it shouldn't be very long. It should only be maybe like 30 seconds or something within a song.
So that's getting you ready for the climax of the song?
No, not really. It's just, like I said, it's just a departure.
Just a departure.
Just a departure from the rest of the song, and it just brings it back to be refreshing when you bring back the chorus. And usually 99% of the time it's coming from the bridge. You'll come back into the chorus. So then when you close the song with the last chorus, the bridge usually will be right before that last chorus.
Okay. And then we have our outro. So this is the conclusion.
Yeah.
So tell me about an outro. What makes it so special?
Well, outro is a good closing section of the song. It just closes the song. Usually, again, it's part of the chorus, and if there's like maybe 3 lines of a chorus you'll repeat the last line a few times of that chorus for an outro. Yeah, it'll be used of a certain part of the song, but it'll be like a repeated idea, and then it'll be a nice closing. And you usually get what's called a cadence, hence the word. That's where I got it from. So
let's talk about cadence then, and talk about the beautiful meaning of what is a cadence.
A cadence is a musical resting place at the end of a phrase in music. And it usually happens at the end of a song. You know, if you hear a symphony or whatever, you know, you hear that big closing thing, that's called a cadence, you know, that big closing section. So yeah, cadence is that big closing section. And it's called a perfect authentic cadence when you go from a 1-4-5-1, and your one is your home chord. So that's
like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So you want to do 1-4, so do, fa, so. Oh, wait, do, re, mi, fa, so. Yeah, do, fa, so, do.
Yeah, exactly. And then usually the T will be that leading tone, and that'll bring you back to do, because T is part of the 5 chord, right? That's the 7th scale degree. So that'll kind of give that tension, and then it'll bring it back to form the cadence.
So do, fa, so, ti, do.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I like that we got this started. I like the feeling of it. And I think that there's a lot that we can expand in this, even about chords. There's so much in chords that you can talk about.
Well, I mean, you know, like music to me is art, right? You know, and art is a form of self-expression, right? So, you know, that's why there's major and minor chords. That's why there's a 1-4-5 progression, because with a 1-4-5 progression, it makes the melody flow. You know, the chords will kind of dictate where the melody will go. So you know, there is rules to it, but in the end, you know, it's just whatever you kind of feel. You know, again, music is a form of self-expression, you know, just like painting or any other sort of art form, right? So don't you know, what they always said in school to me was learn the rules and then break the rules. So don't feel super that it's like super important to learn everything in complete detail before you can actually start writing. So you know, if you have a basic understanding of theory and stuff like that, I think you're pretty good to go. So just let it flow.
Yeah, and that's what I'm here to make sure that we get started. So our next podcast series, we'll plan it out during this Christmas season. But I want to talk a little bit about your album again, listeners. Troy just was at the Roxy 2 weeks ago. Now, was it a week ago or 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
And you've got music out there on Spotify. Where else is it again? It's Spotify.
Yeah, Apple, YouTube. You know, all over Facebook.
So let's talk about your new song. Now that we learn, people, so now that we see the beauty of how to write a song, and we got a little bit of information, a little beautiful intro sharing, let's talk about that song. Let's just talk quickly about it in the next 10 minutes about all those little points. So the intro aspect of the song, the verse, the pre-chorus, the chorus, the bridge, and the outro. So let's just break it down a little bit, and maybe you can hum through it, or just tell us a little bit about that, like in a breakdown of how you created that song. And let's talk about the feeling of that song.
Well, what happened was I got together with my writing partner, Doug Folkens, and I had this riff. Well, I've always liked the band AC/DC, and I like how they have their start and stop riffs in their songs, right? And so I had this kind of AC/DC-ish type feel, but I wanted to bring it into a country sort of idea. So I had this riff, and then I showed it to Doug, and he says, "Oh, I really like that." And then he had a title, which is Country Thunder, and it's based off of the touring festival that's for country artists that goes through Canada. So he had this idea, and his wife just got back from one of the concerts in Ontario. And so she said she had a great time. So we basically formed it off of those two ideas, with the riff that I had, and then with his concept and title. And then we started writing. and then, I had the song structure and everything and the lyrics, and we had it all finished. And then when I went into the studio to actually record it with the other guys there, it kind of evolved a little bit differently. So that's kind of what happens when you write a song and then you actually go to record it. So the guys that I bring into the studio are just super talented musicians, and then I definitely am open to their input, because I just value their opinion so much, because they're, again, the caliber of musicianship is so high. So I'm always open to any suggestions to improve what the outcome of the song is going to be. So they had a few ideas, and so we changed the intro a little bit and stuff like that, and then we doubled up the chorus in a certain spot. And so now the song Country Thunder is what it is, and I'm very proud of it. So it's a bit of an evolution, like a song it takes on a huge evolution from beginning to end when you actually finish recording it and stuff.
It has more power. That'd be really nice for your Country Thunder Festival to open it up with that song.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Put that out to the universe, people.
That's right. Exactly.
Bring it on. Bring it on. Get Troy out there. Right. Just manifest that. I love That's it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So so good to be with you. I think this is a great intro. I want everybody to check out that song too. You just got me feeling like I want to go back and open up my piano book. And that's why I'm making time for this, is I want to go play with my chords now, because I've written so much music. Another one of our musicians in the network is Roland Westline, and he's so patient with me, and he knows how talented I am in hearing and feeling and expressing. It's now I'm going to take time slowly with all of my busy stuff that I'm doing, and just get myself back on the piano and getting some of those sounds with the melodies, and then rewriting and taking these wonderful ideas and put them into manifestation.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah, and I love you too. Like you're a good friend. Listeners, I want you to know that they're wholesome people and they're good people. And I think even the best of people get to deserve their spotlight. And I'm so excited for you, Troy. I'm excited to know you, and I'm also excited for your success. So anybody else that has a chance to see this, wherever the magic runs, DM Troy Toma for Country Thunder.
Yeah.
Get him to open up the event. We can all get the sponsors.
Absolutely.
I think it's a great idea. I feel it. I feel like, what's a better event than to take the name of an event, but then to open it up with a really great musician like you and the heart that you have. So,
oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's everybody check out Troy Toma. Stay tuned, because we're just starting with learning a little bit about music. We'll dissect more next time. And so much love to you, Troy.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. Thanks. Bye, Troy.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.